The meaning of Kathina offering. Kathina is the offering of robes to the Buddhist monks who practice righteousness and have completed the Buddhist Lent. It is a great merit-making occasion for lay devotees, and it earns them tremendous fruit of merit. But before we mention the fruit of merit, let's learn about the meaning of Kathina. Kathina means an embroidery frame that is used to hold the cloth in place. It can be rectangular or round. Once the cloth is held in place, sewing is then facilitated. Another meaning of Kathina is the offering of robes to the Buddhist monks who have completed the Buddhist Lent. Kathina offering is the respectful offering of robes to any Buddhist monk in the temple. The occasion of Kathina can also be called the season for changing into a new robe. At the beginning of Buddhism, a monk acquired his robe by making it out of discarded cloth, such as cloth used to wrap a corpse, or cloth picked up from a trash pile. In those days, cloths were precious and hard to find. When a monk fashioned his robe out of discarded cloth, it signified him as a recluse in search of emancipation. Moreover, a robe made from discarded cloth would not attract the attention of thieves. People in those days minded old and patched material, and it was not desirable to anyone. But later on, the Lord Buddha permitted wealthy patrons to offer cloths to the monks. It all began when a physician requested the Lord Buddha permission to offer cloths to the monks because it was difficult for the monks to find them. The robe design came from the Lord Buddha. He had the most venerable Ananda fashion it after the rice paddies. The robe was stitched together using many pieces of cloth that it looks just like the rice paddy in order to mar the robe and render it undesirable. The Lord Buddha legislated the robe to contain at least 5 different pieces of cloth vertically. Each piece was called Mundala. Smaller pieces was called Atta Mundala. The monks used to have to cut the cloth into suitable pieces, stitch them together, and then dye the robe themselves, which was difficult and time-consuming. They were permitted to use such materials as roots, trees, leaves, flowers, bark, fruit. After the cloths were sewn together into a robe, it would then be dyed. The color used was red yellow or dull yellow. Forbidden colors include indigo blue, yellow, red, pale pink, orange, pink, and black. The monks had to consider the robe before using it. They had to reflect upon the purpose and the use of the robe before donning it. Once the ritual was completed, the monks would use the robe and take care of it very well, because the robe was considered the victory flag of the Arahats. Once the monks received a new robe, the old robe would be used for other purposes, such as lining the ceiling. The old ceiling liner would then be used as the bed sheet. The old bed sheet would be used as a floor cover. The old floor cover would be used as a floor mat. The old floor mat would be used as a dust cloth. The old dust cloth would be pounded and mixed with clay to coat the wall of the monk's residence. Therefore, the offered robes are used for many purposes, and the offering of robes earns the donor great merit. The history of Kathina offering is as follows. Once, while our Lord Buddha was staying at the Jettawan temple in Savatthi, there were 30 monks from Bhattayarat who were on their way to see the Lord Buddha at the Jetawan temple in Savatthi. They had just reached the town of Saked, not too far from Savatthi, when the Buddha's lent was upon them, and they had to stay put where they were. The monks regretted the fact that they were only less than 100 kilometers away from the Lord Buddha, but could not go and see him. After the Buddha's Lent, the monks renewed their pledge to support one another. It was still raining quite heavily after the Buddha's Lent, making the ground very muddy. The monks hurried to continue their travel to have an audience with the Lord Buddha. As a result, their worn-out robes became torn, wet, and dirty. It was a difficult trek to Jetawan temple. As soon as they reached the temple, they went immediately to see the Lord Buddha with their wet and dirty robes. The Lord Buddha asked the monks about their living conditions and their health. He wanted to know how they spent their Buddhist Lent and whether they were harmonious and able to go for alms. The monks answered that they were well enough and were able to live quite comfortably. They told him that they had lived peacefully with one another and received sufficient alms from the people. The Lord Buddha noticed their torn robes and allowed them to accept new robes from lay devotees within a short period of 1 month after the Buddhist Lent. After receiving the new robes, the monks were allowed to travel to a quiet and peaceful place for the purpose of practicing meditation without having to ask for permission, to travel without the complete set of robes, to dine with the other monks at the same table or in a group, to accept additional offering of robes, to keep extra robes for the monks' own use without having to make them available to other monks. This is the history of Kathina offering and what the monks can do after the ceremony. You are all invited to join the ceremony of Kathina offering at the Dhammagaya temple on the first Sunday of November.